I'm David Hunt. My guest today, I've known him actually for about 15 years, which we haven't discussed, but we've known each other for a long time. He's one of the busiest people I've ever known on social media. Oh my God, he's so busy. But he's busy in his professional life and his social life. Professionally, he's a doctor, and we'll talk about that. And he also contributes on Channel 7. And also on 3AW. He's a popular public speaker as well. And then socially, he's got a loving family that he's very involved in, and he's uncle of the century with his nieces and nephews. He's a cake maker and decorator. The amount of times you see his cakes that he makes, mostly for the kids, but then for other people as well along the way. He's a runner. He just competed in the marathon. I thought, he would have done a quarter of it or whatever. He did the whole marathon. And he's a social butterfly in his little group. Well, not little group, there's a lot of the boys that hang out together. And a very lovely person as well. I can't wait to have a real lovely chat with him. I'm sure I'm going to find out things about him as well as we speak to Glen Hosking. Hello.
Hi, David Hunt. It's nice to be here.
Lovely to have you on. And I said before we went on air, how come I haven't done you before? It's one of those things. Yeah. Now, let's talk about you as a kid. You know, like, what were you like as a kid?
Well, I grew up in sort of a semi-country area in Victoria, a place called Clyde, which is near QLife past Cranbourne, sort of about an hour and a bit out of Melbourne. And my childhood, I'm one of 4 kids, and my childhood, we were all really busy as kids. My 3 brothers, so I have 3 brothers, did loads of sport, but I did loads of music and theatre and so on.
So were you picked on because of that?
No, not really. No. And I went to a school, my secondary school, that was really performing arts focused.
Still out there?
Yeah, in QLife. And, there was a musical every year that I did, and a music festival every year that I was heavily involved in, and a band that, even though it's from a country school, we'd come into the city and do these great big competitions against like Scotch College and, these great big private schools that had these huge budgets. And, one time we won it and stuff like that. So my childhood was really, I suppose probably a little bit of a mix of doing lots of music, but also I was very studious. And so, studying really hard.
Well,
and working
obviously,
really hard.
Where you've gone to with that. When did you realise you were gay?
Probably teenage years, I think, and probably like most fight it fairly hard. So this is the 80s or early 90s. And so, you fight it really hard. I fought it really hard, at least, and kind of growing up in a rural
but you were giving it away, though. You're like in the music halls and playing an instrument.
Yeah, and some of the people that I see now, like that I went to school with, like we did musicals together, and there's this kind of group of gays that all did musicals together or played in the school band. So, I think kind of, like teenage years, 14, 15.
Did you do anything about it back then? Or did you just, because you said you were hiding it a bit, so you let it just sit there?
Yeah, it wasn't until I went to university that I started to kind of really accept that part of myself and kind of allow myself to be all right with it, I suppose.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about university. When did you decide to, because your career as a professional is extraordinary. So congratulations on that as well, what you have achieved. So when did you realise, because you actually said it, when you were at school, you were good at studying, obviously, for what you did, because what did you study?
So I'm a psychologist, I'm a clinical psychologist, and to be a clinical psychologist, it's not just one degree, you need multiple.
Yeah.
And the first degree is a bachelor's degree. And you can kind of do it you have to do it in psychology, but
hold on, I just want to stop you there. Why did you choose that profession?
Yeah, so I think at the end of high school, I didn't really know specifically what I wanted to do. I think
Okay.
I knew I would like to pursue psychology and maybe continue to be a psychologist, but I wasn't really sure. I was like quite young for my years. So I was 17 when I finished year 12 and didn't turn 18 until sort of halfway through the following year.
Yeah.
So kind of around that end of year 12 period, I was like, I don't really know what I wanted to do, but I thought I wanted to do something with psychology because I really enjoyed it and was pretty good at it at school. And then I sort of had this kind of thought that if I did like the bachelor's degree in psychology, at the end of that, you've then got a few different pathways you can go down.
True.
So you can continue the study, which I ended up doing to become a psychologist, which is 2 extra degrees after that. The other option that I kind of thought was maybe do the bachelor's degree and then do a teaching degree and become a psychology teacher.
Right. Well, you sort of do that a little bit anyway, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
How long did all the study take? Because it's it's not something you do overnight.
No,
is it?
so it's 7 years
Whoa.
from the entirety of it. So it
But
was.
when could you, Glenn? When could you go out and work in the field, and or did you have to wait until the 7 years?
Yeah, so you're not registered as a psychologist until you've completed the 7 years. Some people you can do it in 6, but I chose to do an extra year. So that is a 3-year bachelor's degree, a 1-year honours degree, and then a 3-year doctorate degree.
Yeah.
So it is 3 different qualifications. And then, at the end of it, registered as a psychologist. Then you have to do a little bit of extra, a lot of extra, in terms of other kinds of areas of specialty.
Now, you're linked with a university. Which one?
So I work at Trobe University.
Yep.
Yeah.
And but you also, do you dabble a little bit in a private practice as well?
Quite a lot. So my work at the moment is really made up of both academia. So in that I kind of teach people how to be psychologists.
When you've been on that journey, that long journey, and obviously you're so qualified now and been in the business for a while, I'm not saying he's old, but you're not. But what's it like now passing that information on? I think it's wonderful what you're doing.
It's fantastic. It's really fulfilling. So, studying any kind of higher education degree is challenging, but when you're studying psychology, it brings up stuff about yourself, like it's a bit confronting. There's so many skills that you've got to develop. It's not just the science of it, that's part of it, but it's also a little bit about the art of being with someone, the art of being able to sit with someone, to be able to empathize with someone.
And picking up traits, you would obviously be very skilled on that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so teaching people that is fantastic, and supporting people through that is fantastic. So being able to really help the profession in those kind of ways and develop people in their skills as psychologists is really fulfilling for me.
Yeah. So it would have been very demanding, that whole university time.
Yeah.
So when did you get time to play? Because boy, you love to go out and socialise.
Well, I didn't until I qualified, David.
Okay, so you were working really on your profession.
So I would say absolutely, unequivocally that that kind of period of time. So I qualified when I was 24. So I'm really unique in that way that most people have a break in that. In those 7 years, or they kind of elongate it, but I just kind of did it. So it wasn't really until I was 24, 25 when I was kind of qualified and kind of working full time that I then explored social things by and large. Yeah.
How hard was it? Because 24, 25 is, probably normal because of that whole thing of coming out. When did you come out to your parents, for instance?
Yeah, around that same time. So around the time of qualifying.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about within the job? Were you out there as well?
Not initially.
Because would that be a bit hard in a way?
No, I mean, in hindsight, not at all. I think at the time. It kind of was, and something that, I think, initially for anybody, there's a difficulty when you're in a workforce or in anything really, and you've got to kind of do that assessment around, do I come out, don't I come out? And now it's just like completely fine. Like it's not even something
when
that I
you make
think
that
about.
jump, it's incredible, isn't it? You think, why didn't I
That's
do
right,
this sooner?
But like, doing that at 40, is much, feels much easier than doing that at 20, right? Or 25. It's much easier at 45 than at 25, right? So not initially, but then, and initially my work was kind of filled mainly with working in private practice and kind of doing a little bit of kind of the academic stuff. And then probably about 15, 16 years ago, I moved into full-time kind of mostly academic kind of roles. But I've always done private practice as a psychologist alongside that.
Then you threw yourself very much into the gay community, didn't you?
Yeah, like you.
Yeah. And you're on Joy. That's where I met you.
Yeah.
You were on with Michael Dalton in the Drive Show. You did that for quite a few years, didn't you?
Yeah. So I think I did Joy for about 10 years, kind of all up. I think we did that Drive Show for about 6 years, and then I'd done some other stuff kind of prior to that.
Have you thought that maybe you would like to go back and do something with your profession, a show?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something that I've considered. And even one thought that I've had is to like at least maybe do some sort of psychology podcast around something like that. And I did actually a little bit of work to think about that kind of 2020, and then this thing called COVID hit, and it just kind of got shelved for me. But I think so. I think that something, in the future, something kind of like that would be really good.
Now, there's a doco that you sent me a link to, a part of it, and it's about body image within especially the gay community. Such an important one, and a good one for you to be involved in with your profession. Why and how did that come about?
So I was approached a couple of years ago by a documentary filmmaker who was wanting to put a documentary that really shone the light on the sort of experiences of cisgendered gay men in relation specifically to body image. And so he gathered a group of people to tell their stories about their experience in the gay community that largely was characterised by exclusion. So in the doco, there's an older person, he's not going to mind me saying that, someone who identifies...
Well, he actually mentions that in, as almost as if, no one sees me. People walk past me and don't even see me.
So they all talk about the experience in there. So there's a non-binary Asian person, a person of colour, and others who I can't remember. And they all just tell these quite amazing, deep stories. And then as a psychologist, I give sort of my perspective and talk about it sort of reasonably on a kind of broader kind of area, both about what we know within the community, a little bit about where that comes from, and then kind of what we can do or should do kind of as a community.
And what's it called?
So it's called Shape.
And good title.
Yeah, and so it not only talks about how cisgendered gay men are much more likely to exclude others based on their appearance, but also based on age, based on ethnicity, based on femininity.
In your profession, you do a bit of public speaking and contribute a bit on Channel 7, on both the news and Sunrise, and then 3AW. Do you're obviously comfortable after the time that you spent at Joy. You're comfortable doing that? Yeah,
it's great, and it's really interesting and sometimes challenging. So I mean, some of the platforms you mentioned are really kind of right wing, and one time I went on one of those platforms to talk about gender pronouns and using they them pronouns, and the audience is going ballistic around it, but that's fighting the good fight in my view.
And just lifting people's awareness, Glenn, is so important, and they might react to it badly, but it's the journey that just as a gay man or a lesbian in those early days, like the struggle there, and now the acceptance is so good, and of course there's so much more going on now, isn't there?
Yeah, I think you're spot on there, that raising the awareness of it, raising the understanding of it, and just having a conversation about it is fundamental to lifting you know, people's awareness of it.
So do you teach that at all when you're teaching now? Is that something that is spoken about? Because it's such a tough journey, you know, with a lot of people.
Yeah, so a lot of my teaching is specifically around the teaching of psychological skills, but things like that definitely come into it. Like certainly part of my teaching is always around helping students to understand the impact of discrimination, whether that be sexuality or other areas, and the impact that that has on how someone engages with a psychologist. You know, if someone's come into you know, in their experience and experience discrimination by straight people, and then they sit in a psychologist's office and they're dealing with a straight person, they're going to have a reaction to that. And so psychologists need to understand that. They need to be able to appreciate that the role that they play in that interaction and how that person might be triggered just by the fact of who they as a psychologist is fundamental. So that's got to be essential to the teaching of, you know, my teaching of psychologists. And as I say, it's you know, discrimination based on sexuality, but also, you know, other kinds of discrimination that people might have experienced.
Can you pick up when there's somebody is not, you know, like you can tell by their body language and all that, a student that they're not accepting it? You know, like can you pick that?
One of the things, and a big part of my role, is selecting people into the final 2 years of university education. And so this is part of the selection process, right? That we
so you've got to
assess.
be, you know, like you're assessed there. You just don't say, I want to do it.
No, yeah, that's right.
Whoa,
yeah.
whoa.
So the programs that I'm involved in have select entry to them, and people have to attend an interview. And one of the things we ask them is around how their background and culture might impact the work that they do with other people, and what is the kind of awareness sort of that. And so hopefully, not always, but hopefully that means that people come into programs with at least some kind of metric around how culture plays a role in the work that psychologists do.
Yeah.
But I guess if someone isn't able to reflect on and appreciate the role that culture plays, then they're probably not going to pass, right? Because it's essential. It's an essential thing. Or that they'll fail the course, because it's an essential thing that psychologists need to be able to understand.
Is there, you know, like a dropout? Is there, you know, a failure? Or
not a huge amount.
Okay, because by the time you get to that stage, you're like, you know what you want to do. When
you've done 4 years, and you have to have succeeded at those 4 years.
Okay. Now, one of the most important things I'm going to ask you today: cake decorating.
Yes.
Where did the love of it come from?
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I mean, it's such a great creative outlet.
Especially with what you do. You would need an outlet more than the average person, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Well, I don't know if more than the average person, but I guess two things about cake decorating that I enjoy. One is the creative element of it. One is the actual thinking of it, the actual putting it together, doing a little bit of research around what could look good or what have you. The second part is gift giving, of being able to create something that's really special for someone that, you know, means something to them or means something about them. So both of those things I get such a buzz out of.
Because you do it for the kids.
Yeah.
But then, you know, like I'll see a 50th birthday one as well. And so they don't know you're doing it, or do they ask you to do it?
Normally I ask. I normally say, do you want me to make you a cake, or can I make you a cake?
That is such a beautiful, special thing to do. I think it's really good. So you would get a buzz out of it, and they would.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's
and everyone there.
But it's enjoyable. I mean, that sort of is something that kind of emerged slowly for me. And I mean, it's a great thing to learn and teach yourself. And like, YouTube is fantastic in terms of teaching of techniques around cake decorating, and a whole lot of other things, obviously. But you know, it's a great way to learn and as I say, utilize a creative outlet.
Now, 3 brothers, so there's 4 boys in the family. How have they accepted you, like being a gay man?
They're fantastic. They're three. I love them so much.
Brilliant. And I can see that through your social media.
Yeah. Like we're quite close in ages, so there's 7 years between the four of us.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Your parents, go for it.
Yeah, that's right. So, and they're fantastic. And like, I mean, the three of them are very similar. Like they have always played loads of sport. They played sport together. They play until recently. The three of them all played in the same cricket team.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
wow.
And have always done loads of sport. But that doesn't mean we're all close, and I adore them.
Yeah. That's good. And what did you come out to them all at the same time?
Yeah.
You told your parents and then told them separately.
Yeah.
And did a couple of them say we already knew?
Oh, I think they already knew. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Which I often find really interesting that like because I came out later in life and everyone, all my nieces and nephews who were all growing up, they're not all that much younger than me, and also we always knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
But my sisters didn't.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So the younger generation had more of a handle on it than the older generation.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Gosh.
So where do you see yourself now in the future? Like because you've achieved so much in your professional life. Is there a goal? Is there a pinnacle where you want to go now?
Look, I don't think I have like a set kind of goal that this is kind of what I want to do like as the next kind of chapter. I sort of see the sort of distant, like the immediate and maybe even distant future to continue to work in this industry and develop ideas and look into particular kind of areas. Like a little bit of my work is in psychological research, and that can be quite dynamic and can kind of shift a little bit of the kind of focus on learn new things.
Yeah, well, that would be changing a lot, wouldn't it? The research side, because we're discovering a lot faster than we ever did.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So that is energizing in itself. I find it energizing in itself.
But I love when you watch a doco and it's from hundreds of years ago or something like that, but they're looking at people back then. And how clever and smart, like a lot of people were. Like those two famous artists, Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci.
I've heard of them.
You've heard of them? Oh, no, most people have actually. But how extraordinary they were and how clever they were, and like punching above their weight. And then like their, and then it seems to fall away a bit, and then rears its head with other people. Like that research alone would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we sort of see there is a little bit of a cycle of things that kind of come and go in research focus, and as I say, it can be really interesting and dynamic.
And what about you as a gay man? Partner?
No.
Why?
Oh, I don't know.
Have you ever had one?
No, not a significant one, no.
Okay, well, I think I probably realised why, because you're too busy.
Right.
Work-wise and socially with your group of lovely friends that you've got.
Yeah.
I remember bumping into you one night. I think it was a Friday night. I was coming home from when Joy was in the city, and we always would go out to dinner, and you walked by with about 3 or 4 friends, and we were chatting, and just the bond that you had with them was really nice.
Yeah, and friendship means loads to me, like as does family, as we spoke about, but friendship means loads to me, and I think for a lot of gay people, that's a kind of logical family, a chosen family. And there's a little bit of that for me, like the close friends that I have, that I've had for 20 years are so supportive and so wonderful to be around and so reliable.
You said, I don't know why I haven't got it. Would you like a partner?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But you
although I will say that sometimes one of my friends who's in a relationship, and he said to me the other day, any dates, or are you just like so burnt by all of the relationship problems that we're having that you're like, no way. But sure, yeah.
I'm a bit older than you, and I've never been in a relationship. And I think to myself, I wish I was still
Right.
at this stage, but then again, like I would probably be hard to live with,
Right.
because I've lived by myself
'Cause
for
you've had
so
many
long.
decades of living by yourself.
Yeah, or I've just lived with friends years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
But like in many years now, just by myself. I had people come and stay, and nieces and nephews come
Yeah.
and stay. But yeah, it gets harder as you get older.
For sure, yeah.
Like just thinking, can I do it?
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see, I suppose.
All right. Well, like in 5 years' time, we'll come back and ask you, are you in a relationship?
All right, deal.
Yeah, deal. Glenn, thank you so much for chatting with us today. There was so much more we could talk about, but I feel as if we got a real insight on who you are and what you've achieved. And as I said at the beginning, congratulations on what you've achieved. Like it's you've done a brilliant job.
Oh, thanks, David. It's
Yes.
really nice to talk to you as well.
Yeah, especially the cake decorating. I've been chatting to Glen Hosking, an amazing man, as you can see. And I'm David Hunt, and I'll see you again real soon. See ya.